The last couple of weeks we've been talking about becoming a writer, how to write what you want to write, how to get the skills that you need in order to become a writer, how to sharpen the craft of the basic building blocks. Today I'm going to talk to you about becoming a writer and finding that career path. How do you do it? How do you become a writer after you have all these skills and all the building blocks? Let's talk about that today.
You have a story to tell, but you don't know where to start. Let me show you how to free your story. I teach you how to write and how to dig deep in your soul to release your story and make a difference in the world.
I'd like to welcome you to my channel. I am Julia Amante. I'm a women's fiction author, and I'm here to give you some writing tips that will help you to get your book written and to improve your writing skills. So the first job of a professional writer is really to figure out what it is they want to write. And the second is to figure out how we're going to achieve that goal. Now, we all know like what we enjoy reading, right? So I remember being a kid and having my favorite books, which were like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory or A Wrinkle in Time, which I really loved. And I even loved A Call of the Wild, even though it broke my heart and made me cry. But then as I got a little older and I was getting more into the classics, I remember loving Jane Eyre and those romances. So when the time came for me to write my own book, by that time, I realized how much I really loved writing romance, reading romance. So that just told me, well, that's probably the genre that I should write in. I should write something that I enjoy reading. And I read other things too. I read thrillers, and I remember reading a lot of books about spies in the Soviet Union. And I thought, you know, I really love reading those, but could I write it? And I decided that no, because I don't know enough about that. And I was at that time, you know, super young, 19, 20 years old and just getting into college. And I thought, well, if I don't know anything about that, I'm not going to write about it. Now, I could have researched, I could have spent some time doing that and still written those books. But in my mind, the easiest thing was for me to write a romance. And so that's what I started doing. But knowing what we want to write is only the first step in figuring out what we're going to do, how we're going to become a writer. Because once you know what you want to write, great. But now, how are you going to get to your goal, whatever that may be? If it's to publish a book or just to write a complete story, how are you going to do that? And what I want to share is that the way you're going to do that is by setting goals. And let's say you want to publish, get a publication timeline, set a publication timeline for yourself. The first thing you're going to do is develop your writing skills in the genre that you're interested in. So I chose romance. I had to become a really good romance writer. I had to not only understand characterization and plotting and the building blocks of creating a story, but I also had to focus on that genre. So how do I build sexual tension, since that's a huge part of romance? How do I have that chemistry between characters? How do I build that chemistry? How do I create a backstory for these characters that is going to either bring them together or pull them apart? So I had to look at things specifically of that genre so that I could learn that. And how do I do that? Well, by doing the next step, which is really honing in on my craft of writing and on that genre. So I read tons of books in that genre, studying the mechanics of storytelling, studying that genre, reading books, going to conferences where there were romance writers, publishers that published romance books. And so whatever genre you're doing, even whether it's nonfiction, whether it's, whether it's a thriller, you want to find other writers, publishers, conferences, books that are specific to that. So you want to hone in on that genre and master the craft of storytelling, specifically in your genre. My other suggestion is to hang out with other writers. So it can be a very lonely job, right? So the career of a writer can be very lonely because you're doing it all by yourself. You may talk to other writers online, and that's a good first place, but I would say also find other writers that you can be with, that you can talk to, that you can share what some of their challenges are and what some of your challenges are. You can provide support for each other, but also maybe feedback. Those other writers may become critique partners, or they may not. That doesn't mean that they have to, but they may. And if they can offer some feedback, you can help each other to improve and to really focus on your target. The next step in becoming a professional writer is to build that writer, to create your writing self. Now, what do I mean by that? Writers are going to have their own brand and their own image. Something that is going to make you recognizable and memorable to readers. And that comes from things like your writing style. It comes from the themes that you tend to explore within your stories. It comes from your world view and how you present yourself to the world. So that's going to come through in your stories. So I have a little coffee mug that has, those little sayings. I actually have that book. I have a coffee mug, and I just recently found it on a journal. And so I bought the journal, and if you can see what it says here, life isn't about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself. And it says author unknown, so I've seen that quote attributed to various people, but it doesn't really matter. The reason I bring this up is because it's especially true for writers. You are creating your author persona. This is going to become your brand, whether you use a pseudonym and this is the other person, or use your own name, and you just know that whoever you are, this is who I am to the world. This is who this writer is. This is what the type of story that this writer likes to write. These are the type of themes that this writer likes to explore. So you need to create that brand for yourself. So questions you can ask yourself is, what kind of emotions do I want my readers to feel when they read my work? What themes and messages am I passionate about that I want to explore in my novels? How do I want to be perceived by my readers? Do I want my readers to think I'm humorous, or that I tell heartwarming stories, or that I tell really scary stories, thought-provoking, whatever, right? So there's an image that they're going to have of you because of the stories you write. Now, once you have defined your brand and you know the type of stories that you're going to write, now you need to tell the world about this. So you're going to have things, you're going to create your author bio, you're going to have a website where people can go and learn about you. You're going to show up as this author on social media. That means you're not talking about anything else. Yeah, sure, you can share what you've eaten for lunch, or you can share a vacation you went, because we want to see our writers, our writing buddies and friends and people we love to follow. We want to know a little bit about them personally, but you don't want to talk about all kinds of other things. It honestly annoys me when authors are talking about politics or a bunch of other things that I honestly don't care, because unless that's what they're writing about, unless they write political books, or unless they write about a certain topic, I really I don't care. I don't care about that. What I care about is them and their books and their stories, and what makes you want to write a book about dinosaurs. What makes you want to write a historical novel about World War II? What passions do you have, or what experiences do you have? That's what's interesting, and that's what you should share on social media. And eventually, depending on if you are self-publishing, creating your own books, or you have a publisher, you want your book covers to also reflect this brand of who you are and the type of stories that you write. Your publisher will automatically make sure that your cover reflects your genre, but if you're creating your own story, then you want to make sure that you are that not only are you reflecting your genre, but also your style, your brand, and the things you stand for. The goal here is to build some recognition. And the last part about building yourself as a writer, becoming a writer, is to create your publication strategy and goal. First thing you want to decide is, do you want to publish with a traditional publisher? Do you want to self-publish? Do you want to self-publish and control your own destiny? There are advantages to both. Again, there are videos out there. I have a few on how self-publishing versus traditional publishing, but traditional publishing gives you more support. You get to work with an editor, you get to work with a design team and a cover artist, and they take care of a lot of those things for you. The marketing, you don't have to worry about that. So that does have some really nice advantages. The disadvantages are that you lose complete control. You get an advance, and that's really about it. Unless your book really does well, you'll get some royalties, but you don't have a lot of control. You can't say if the book is going to be sold to, your foreign rights are going to be sold, if you're going to be able to sell your film rights. That's all up to the publisher. If they decide to do it, they will, and if they don't, they won't, and you cannot control that. If you decide that you want to self-publish, then there are things that you're going to learn. Yes, you're going to control everything, but that means you find your own editor, you find your cover artist, you find the marketing people that are going to help you. You learn how to market yourself. You learn how to work with Amazon and Kindle Direct Publishing and how to format your books. You do it all. So you get to make all the decisions, but you also get to do all the work. So both have advantages and both have disadvantages. And that is something that you are going to have to decide, though. What is your publication strategy? What is your goal? And no matter what you decide, there are things you're going to have to learn, right? If you're going to try to traditionally publish, then before you can get your book to a publisher or work with any of the editors or their design team, is you have to actually sell your book. You have to be able to learn how to write a query letter. You have to probably find an agent and convince the agent that they should represent you, and then work together with the agent in order to sell your book to a publisher. You probably need to work on your networking skills, because you are going to be networking a lot more if you're trying to convince agents and editors to work with you. So there are skills you're going to want to master if you're working, if you want to sell with a traditional publisher, or skills you're going to want to master if you want to self-publish. So there are a lot of things that you want to consider to become a writer. So I think a lot of times people are like, well, I want to become a writer. Well, what do you have to do? Well, just write. True. You do want to just write, but you also want to have a plan and a goal. You can just write forever. That doesn't mean you're getting better. It doesn't mean that you are getting closer to any kind of goal. If your goal is just to write just for fun so that you can unwind every day, get a glass of wine or coffee and just sit and write for 30 minutes every day, well, that's fantastic if that is your goal. If your goal is to become a professional writer of whatever type, so there are people that become professional grant writers or become professional social media writers. So there are all kinds of writers and editors, right? Copywriters and all kinds of editors. So it really depends on, what is your goal? What is it that you want to do? And then it's to create a strategy that will get you to that goal. And my suggestion is to put it all on paper, to sit there and plan it out and say, what is it that I want and by when do I want it? Maybe I want to focus the next 6 months on really brushing up on those skills. Maybe the next 6 months I want to write the book. Maybe after that I want to try to publish. Okay, well then I want to try to find an agent. I'm going to focus on how do I get an agent? How do I convince an agent? Or I want to self-publish. I'm going to start learning how to format a book. I'm going to learn how to find editors and work with editors. So in order to become a writer, there's a lot you want to do, and you want to plan it out. You don't just want to sit there and just say, I want to do that. You wouldn't do that for anything else. I want to be a doctor. Okay. Well, what do? I have to have a goal, right? I have to go to college. I have to learn how to do whatever. I have to specialize in something. So that's the same thing here. You want to specialize in a genre. You want to really understand the genre. You want to start writing in that genre. You want to find people that can help you, other people that are also writing in that genre, and so forth. Everything that I just mentioned. So I hope that this gets you thinking about really what does it take to become a writer? What do you have to do? I hope that it encourages you to start taking some steps. And if it did and you enjoyed the video, then please like the video, please share it with other people, and also subscribe to the channel so that I can continue making videos. And I look forward to seeing you again next week.